Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I missed you all. I saw that there were some deferred items in the agenda, so I figured Reb couldn't handle them, and you just wanted me to wait for me to get back, right? Yeah. No, right. No, welcome. It's good to be back. I want to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. All alternates can vote. I would just like to make a comment that this room is committed to the Area Agency on Aging around 3:30. So I'm not telling you not to speak about something that you have a concern about, but let's just try to be succinct, and I'll try to control the flow so that we don't get into too many repeats. Just ask for your indulgence in that. First of all, I'd like to hear a motion to approve the agenda. So moved, Cheryl? Joan, sorry. And Cheryl, second. Reb?
I would like to amend the agenda so that we hear all 6 items, A, B, C, D, E, and F. The items, we vote on them separately, just hear them all out and then take one vote. The reason being, 5 of the 6 items request line item transfers from one project, and you have a better overview of the impact on 5 of those projects.
So we have a request to amend the agenda. Do I have a second for that? Tom? All those in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And so the way I understand the thing is that because a lot of those are moving money from a single project, is to hear all of those and then vote on them individually. So is that acceptable? Okay. All right. So the agenda has more of a procedural thing. We're still going to take them in that order, but we're just going to listen to them all at one time versus voting individually. Public comments for periods not on the agenda. Any of the committee members have any public comments? Anyone in the audience have any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Do I hear a motion approval of minutes for the April 3rd meeting?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a change to those minutes.
Okay.
Bottom of the second page, last line. This was an information item provided by Miss Jennifer Irving. And her last name is on there twice, so it just needs to be
Okay.
deleted.
Good catch. Thanks, Larry.
So it's not minutes.
Okay. Any other changes or additions to the minutes? Do I have a motion to accept as amended?
I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
Thank you,
I
Cheryl.
second.
And Larry seconds that. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Financial report.
Yes.
Get myself organized here. Hi, Beth.
Hi, good afternoon. There you go. Okay, so on the first page, we had a very good February, $7,678,000, so we were almost $859,000 above the monthly budget, so we're $1,526,000 so far for the 2 months above budget. So that was excellent. On the second page, compared to actuals last year, we were ahead by almost $560,000 or 7.85%. And then the rest of the financials, does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Reb?
Bev, on line item transfers, how do you keep track of them? When I say that, we're going to have some today that are going to be 5 line item transfers from one project.
Yeah, you'll be getting the amended budget next month, and there'll be a column that shows the ins and outs of line item transfers, all in one column. But that's how I keep track of it.
Oh, I'm not questioning, I just,
Yeah, so I just keep the original budget or the budget, amended budget, plus or minus line item transfers. But you'll see them in the amended budget. It'll be a column.
Never mind. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so item 6 is capital maintenance public transportation contracts. Mr. Chavez.
Good afternoon, members of the CAC. Mike Chavez, City Engineering. I've got a whole slew of things to go over. So the first one, we're talk about Travis Easton's Public Works Director mentioned it as an informational item last month, but basically we're looking at buying and supplying upgrade kits for the variable message signs along the freeway to CDOT. They will install them and then take over maintenance of those signs. Right now, we maintain them. We do use some RTA staff, RTA paid staff to maintain them. I don't have an exact number, but that would be cost savings to the city and RTA once CDOT takes them over. So what we're looking for is approval or recommendation of approval to the board from you to the board, and then this would actually be executed or authorized when we finalize an IGA with CDOT.
And so that amounts $109,595, is that right?
It's 328 plus 109.
Oh.
So we'll buy 15 kits this year and 5 next year.
Oh, okay.
So it's what is that? $439,000.
Mike, has PPRTA ever had a role in financing these signs or their operation or maintenance before?
I'm not sure. Let's let Todd see if he, or Rob held actually. Rob.
We'll have Rob Helt, head of the traffic management center, speak to that. Just so you may not know who I am. I am the new city traffic engineer. My name is Todd Frisbee, so you may see me every once in a while before this group. So I'll introduce Rob. He can answer that question much better than I can.
Welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome.
Okay, thank you.
condolences.
Rob Helt, City of Colorado Springs Traffic Management Center. If I heard the question correctly, if as RTA, the original installation and operation was put in through congestion mitigation air quality grants many years ago. It was a IGA agreement between CDOT and the City of Colorado Springs. So ongoing maintenance has fallen on to the city, and we have used RTA staff and RTA funds for maintenance of the devices.
So are we now expected to subsidize CDOT by furnishing them 20 new kits?
I had started the process of, most of the devices have reached the end of life as far as the electronics, the controllers, things like that. So we were starting the process of putting a package together to do all of that upgrading through the city of Colorado Springs. We bought through PPRTA a test kit about a year ago, and we installed it on the sign on Cimarron. And so it was basically a proof of concept that we could buy these kits to upgrade the signs so the usable life is extended. So that is when CDOT approached City of Colorado Springs and asked to take over the devices. And so that's why I didn't go any further with the process of asking for all of the money.
So this could be seen as get them in working order and up to speed and handing them off, and then we're out of that business.
They will take over the operation of the cameras and the cameras and the VMS signs on their right of way. That's their business model and operations model for across the state.
is this only those devices that are on their right-of-way?
Yes, we will
Are there
continue
any in
to,
our right-of-way?
yes, that we maintain within the city. So there's smaller VMSs, and there's an additional 74 cameras that are located across the Colorado Springs area.
Any other questions on this particular one? You guys got the briefing last month on this. Any further comments or questions? So let's go ahead and vote. Dave?
So, the city, you're saying PPRTA or the city is going to spend $4 million?
Approximately $400,000. So that would,
400,000.
yeah, it would be PPRTA funds through the congestion mitigation.
So you spent $400,000, we buy upgrade kits, and they last another 10 years before CDOT has really anything to do.
The installation of the kits is a large component also of the install. So that would be any of the lane closures, paying for the installation. CDOT has agreed to do all of that. So that would be a burden upon the city if we did the upgrades. So we will do 20 of, or basically buy the kits for 20 of the VMSs. They will do the remainder, but do the install of everything.
Tom?
So is this going on in Pueblo also?
I'm going to lean on Scott Dalton from CDOT.
In Pueblo, CDOT already owns and maintains the cameras already. What we're doing is we opened a joint operations center in Pueblo for Region 2. We've expanded the safety patrol program in Colorado Springs, adding more vehicles, more trucks of the safety patrol program, and we took over the dispatch of CDOT maintenance operations from State Patrol. The reason we approached this MOU was so we can have control of the cameras and the VMS boards in our joint operations center as they do around the state. These 20 repair kits are actually only half. CDOT's buying the other 20 to do the repairs also, and then we will do all the installation.
So you're taking over the one up in Monument also then?
We already control the one up at Monument.
And you've had that for how long?
As long as I
Since it was
can-
installed?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes. This last segment in Colorado Springs on I-25 is the only segment that we don't maintain and control the cameras and VMS boards on the whole interstate.
It seems local communities are being told to pick up the cost of the interstate system.
Yeah, above our pay grade. Yeah, but you're right, in a lot of areas. And it started with I-25 expansion through here a long time ago, so.
So what we're asking is, because you have owned, the City of Colorado Springs has owned and maintained those, we're asking for 20 of the 40 upgrade kits. We're going to supply the other 20, but then we will take control over the cameras and the boards so that we can dispatch our maintenance patrols and safety patrols on the interstate, be able to provide a better service.
So it would eliminate another layer of coordination in the process.
Yes, sir.
So the obvious question is, if this group would say no, then the kits don't get in, and then what happens? That's what I thought.
Yeah. Jim brought up the gap. We heard it after the fact, but we heard it, and none of us knew that it was going to be a toll lane. So we have been misled, or whatever, by CDOT before. Literally, you put a good point to it. Literally, CDOT is divesting themselves of a lot of issues, but I don't know that we're not paying for it in the long run with something that we don't see. What we see is we're going to pay $400,000, $438, but not million. But for that, we are now shed of it. I want to be clear, to me, because I'm against this, I feel like we're subsidizing CDOT just like we did on the gap, and when we found out after we agreed to subsidize them, not only 50 or 10 million here, but the county went out and through their efforts got an additional $65 million grant. And Douglas County has put in a sum total of 10. Now, this system is supposed to be all around the state. Everything's going to be coordinated through one. And I thought I read it one time around, maybe it was Travis's presentation, that we would still take care of the monitoring on a weekend on two days.
No, we have 24/7 coverage.
But
With
they
CDOT.
refer to a golden,
So the Pueblo Operations Center currently is only staffed from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., and then it rolls over to the statewide center in Golden for those dark hours.
that's the golden, okay. But
Ed?
Mike, what does the signs, or whatever they are, cost us now annually, and what would you anticipate that to, is that being offset by divesting these and getting them?
The biggest cost is future maintenance, upgrades into future maintenance. So right now, some of the devices are down hard. So I had started the plan of trying to upgrade these devices. So if this wouldn't go through with CDOT, I would be coming back, because I don't think they would take over the signs at this point, that I'd be coming back to PPRTA trying to put this package together to upgrade it completely on PPRTA money. So that would pay for all of the basically lane closures, installation, all of that. The original IGA basically says that the city is responsible for the future maintenance of the devices under the usable life.
So this is actually a cost share with CDOT to get these up to standards, and they take over maintenance, so it's a deferred cost for us down the road.
Yes.
Did I summarize that?
Yes, I would say it's a good deal because we're maintaining them now.
Great.
Sounds like they're in pretty bad shape, so.
Call the question, make a motion to approve.
we're going to do it separately.
We were going to do 6A first. So we got a call for a question. Do I hear a second? Scott?
Was Red's original motion that A, B, C, D, E, and F are voted on as a package?
No, my amended thing was, do you hear all of the presentation, you vote on them separate? Because it calls for in the agenda to have each one.
But this one is not a funds transfer, so that's the reason I chose to do it this way.
That's fine.
So this one is not a line item transfer, it's a single item. So we have a call for motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rick Hoover, call for question, and Scott call for the second. Any other discussion? Do I hear all those in favor say aye? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
So we have 4 nays. Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, 6B. So just to reiterate, Mike, you're going to cover all the way down through F, all the line item transfers, and then we'll vote on them individually.
Okay. All right. So in summary, we have several projects that are short of money of varying amounts and for various reasons. So what I am looking at doing is taking money out of the Academy Reconstruction Fountain to Milton Proby Parkway project. I've got $12 million budgeted this year in it, but we're just starting the design, so we're not going to need the construction funds in 19. So basically I'm borrowing against that project this year, and I kind of looked at the years out. I've got a big spreadsheet that has all the projects spread out through 2022, actually. The last 2 years, there's a little space there, wiggle room. And so I'm going to be able to put this money back into Academy in the 2020 budget request. And that was a concern, and I talked to Councilman Avila, because that's her district, and I talked to her this week about it's just a temporary thing. We're going to put the money back in.
One moment. Rick, you wanted to say something about this before Mike went any further? Excuse me, Mike, sorry.
No.
Just a little factual history I put at each of your places. The PPRTA 2 voter approved A list, with these on the back, but A, I've highlighted in yellow 10 program funds, what the city calls things called program funds. They are, another way to describe it, is they are generally worded capital projects that give the city a lot of flexibility.
So that, what you're saying is that it really does, not taking away from the particular budget, taking away some of these general projects to move that money around.
Well, it's a value judgment when you move money in a line item transfer. What Mike is asking for today is a line item transfer from a specifically named project, which is the second one down, second bullet in individual project. Academy Boulevard Fountain is our own program. He's taking money out of that and moving it into 5 of the program. Actually, the first one's Black Forest. So he's moving individual project bullet number 2 money to regional collaborative project number 1, Black Forest. That's the first one. The other 4, he's moving from bullet number 2 to program projects. Now, it's a value judgment on each individual part, whether or not that's a good thing to do or not. It just depends on the description of the project, whether you like it or not. Did I answer your question, Larry?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay, and I guess the other general thing I like to mention is that the specific named A-list projects, Academy, Black Forest, those are the priority projects. These program ones, they have, we have an allocation every year that we have identified, and we've supplemented these, but we're not doing it at the detriment of the actual named projects, and that's why I said we're borrowing against Academy to help these programs, but it'll come back to the actual project. So I just want to make sure that you understand that, we're not going to put everything into the programs and then leave the named projects short.
Mike, following up on what you stated just a couple minutes ago, so what you're saying, you're still going to use some of the program funds for Fountain to Parkway to finish up the design this year?
No. We're just borrowing against that project to help some of these programs that are a little short this year.
Larry,
and then next year, basically, I think I've taken out, what was it, 3.1 million out of Fountain to these line item transfers. They're going to 3.1's coming out of Academy into the programs. Next year, I'll put that 3.1 million back into Academy project.
Where will you get that 3.1 million? Will it be in major projects?
No, I just kind of, like I said, I adjust. Sometimes we got to push. The way it's working out, certain projects, Circle Bridge, we're going to fund more next year, but it's not going to be ready for construction. So I was able to move that construction funding out another year, and then what I would have used for Circle, I'm going to put back in the Academy. It's just a cash flow.
So the member governments get an allocation, and then they determine the distribution of that during their budgeting process. So in the 2019, they allocated a certain amount of money towards the Academy, and it's not working out that they're going to need all of that. So they're moving some of that money to these projects, and they'll make that project whole when they get next year's allocation.
I guess that's what I'm concerned about, Jim, is that we make sure that that particular project we're taking the money out of. Now, I can see where they can move it, because there are projects that take 2 or 3 years
Right.
from start to finish, and so you move those funds around. I just want to make sure that we don't lose any major project because of that.
No, we won't. And we'll have updates, but we did this a couple of years ago with the Pikes Peak reconstruction. When we started the project, we put all the money into it, but we had a year of design, so the construction money sat there unused for a year, so we borrowed against it and for other projects, and then when that construction of Pikes Peak actually came online, we put the money back and we budgeted it back in. So this is all I'm doing with Academy.
Tom?
Mike, so this project had a $700,000 allocation as we began the year,
Yes.
and your negotiation came in at 739, which is, so you're 39,000 short, so you're borrowing an extra 500K to cover that 39, or what's going on?
Yeah. So basically, we put $700,000 in to cover what we thought would be the preliminary design. And so we negotiated, we did an RFP, AECom was selected. Their whole design fee is more like, I forget, million or almost $2 million. But we're just trying to do the first phase, of the preliminary design and concept design. So that's what we negotiated. So we're a little short, but I did ask for $500,000 just because there's some NOTI program management costs, they bill against the projects. We also may get to the point where we can get some right-of-way purchased if we need to, so I just wanted to put a little extra in there and have enough money to get us through this preliminary design, have some right-of-way money, and also if we move on to the next phase, I can just keep AECom going rather than have to come back and line item transfer some money.
Okay,
Questions on that one?
Questions on any further questions on Black Forest? Okay.
Okay, next item. Again, we're looking, this memo, this is a two-part memo, so I'm looking for an authorization to line item transfer money, but I also want the construction contract approved in this memo. So we have the Tejon Roundabout, that's a CMAQ, an air quality grant that we have. Grant was about $1.5 million that we got back in 2011. This project has been slowed down by right-of-way issues, and the historical clearance took a little longer than typical. But we actually went to bid twice. The first time we bid it, we only got one bidder in the $2.5 million range, rebid it, and we had Blue Ridge come in at 1.6. But we also have some construction management costs that we need to cover. So I did a rough budget, or the budget shown there, showing our anticipated costs. The 1.6 construction alternate one will be awarded, so 1.6. Then we have contingency in there, and the CM is set on a price. So these are expected expenditures. And then the funding is basically the grant and the local match. So we're $580,000 short, so I'm requesting a line item transfer from Academy, Fountain to Milton Proby into the intersection improvement program to cover this. Now, we are also applying to PPACG for about $480,000 of grant money they have available. That is due this Friday. We won't know for sure if we get it till May or till June, and clearance to actually have that money till July. So I didn't want to wait and put this project off anymore. So we're going to have the RTA money in reserve, or available to use. But if we get the grant money, then I'll use that instead. And most of this $600,000 I won't need to use. Right now, if you approve the transfer and the contract for Blue Ridge, I'm actually only needing $134,000 of RTA money to actually go to construction for Blue Ridge's contract.
Okay, Rev had it.
Yeah, just one question on that. On the front of that page, you have the local non-participating funds to the tune of $262,000, round numbers. Where is that from?
That's a general fund grant match.
Your general fund?
City General Fund grant.
Yeah. Most of our grants are matched with city funds.
Okay, Scott?
What is the $60,000 alternative one?
So it's basically some retaining walls in the roundabout, and we bid it. It's kind of a fancy thing. We are actually going to change order that and probably go to a simpler wall and a less expensive wall design. But because it's bid through CDOT, I got to award how we bid it. So I have to award that, and then we'll change order it and change that wall design and that price, so it'll be less expensive. And the wall is needed because we need obstruction in the roundabout, so you can't see through it.
And that's because it went through CMAC? Is that the congestion mitigation?
CDOT.
Well, yeah, it's a CDOT grant, but it's a air quality grant
Okay.
specifically. So this request is approve the line item transfer of $600,000 and also approve awarding the $1.66 million contract to Blue Ridge when you vote on that one.
Jim, what I'm trying to figure out, Mike, is that it says PPRTA funds of 134, so once again, we see 460,000 over what is documented in the paperwork.
Okay, if you look, I'm short $580,000 because I need 1.66 for the construction. I want to reserve, 10% contingency. I need 280 for material testing.
I don't disagree with any of that, but you're saying PPRTA share is 134, and you're contributing 600.
No, that's, so overall I need 600,000, that's what, in the program, but to actually award Blue Ridge's contract, I only need 134,000.
That's the contract amount.
Trying to make
Contract.
trying to make the budget for the contract, for the project whole.
Yes.
With the 600K.
Mhm. So that 400,000 would, that 480 that's remaining would be for contingency and to pay my consultant for material testing and construction management.
Mike, I'd like to go back to that local non-participating funds. You're taking monies from the general fund for matching grant from the city? I don't understand, because you use that same term in another one of these 5 items. What's coming out of the city's general fund, and where are the funds, they're matching funds, I assume?
It's a federal grant,
Yeah,
Well, they got the federal grant.
right here,
yeah,
1.263 million.
is the federal portion. Our portion is 17%, is the 262, and comes
That's
from
out
general.
of city.
That's city, uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you know if that's true of the next item? And I don't know if it's the next item, but there's another one, you use the term, local non-participant. Yeah,
I'll have to see.
Yeah.
So any other discussion on this particular project? Okay. Next one.
All right. Let's see. The next one is,
Printers Parkway and Parkside. 6D, Mike, in the upper right.
okay, yeah, all right. All right, next one, we have a grant that is on a project that's pretty old, from back in 12. And when we applied for it, we got about $623,000 to do a roundabout at Printers Parkway. As we've gone through the design, it's become more expensive than we anticipated, so we are short. So I am requesting a line item transfer from Academy to the intersection improvements program of $1.2 million to cover this project. Again, I have a breakdown of our expected costs. We haven't gone to bid on it yet. We're close. But I'm looking to have to cover the construction, some contingency, material testing. The water line relocation will be reimbursed by CSU. So we have about a $1.2 million shortfall on that. I'm requesting that. In this case, Yereb, yes, the local funding is general fund, that $46,000.
Brian had a question.
Yeah, just kind of a general question on these two projects. What data does the city have available that putting roundabouts at these two intersections is going to help or reduce traffic issues, collisions, et cetera?
Okay, right now, at Prentice Parkway and Parkside, that's that super wide median, and there's quite a lot of history, accident history there, a lot of crashes. So we looked at that and saw the roundabout as being the best option. The signal really wouldn't work because you basically have to redo the street and narrow it, and with that kind of room, a roundabout works good. Roundabouts also are proven to reduce accidents and the severity because you're slowing people down through.
I'm generally a proponent of them.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah, so that was
you guys
looked
had
at.
actually studied it.
Yeah, we had looked at way back, and
Okay.
that's what we came up with.
Mike, I got a question. In the fourth paragraph, right before the table, you said this project's been delayed by historical and right-of-way issues. Does that really apply to this project? It was the same statement, same general area of the previous memo.
Yeah, well, right away, it's been delayed, and when I say historical, that means the clearance, CDOT, you got to go through an environmental clearance
Oh, okay.
and historical,
Okay.
and that takes time.
Okay.
Finding the historicals are taking longer than the environmentals now, because they're included as part of the...
Yeah, actually.
Okay, any questions on this one? That is a very wide street down there, and people do kind of tend to speed down that street. Okay, 6E,
6E.
intermodal transportation.
All right, this one, okay, so in this request, we're looking at transferring out $500,000 to supplement $500,000 of city funds. The city's going to be conducting an update to their intermodal transportation plan. So we have a plan that was done back in '01, and it's pretty old. And the city has changed and grown quite a bit. Banning Lewis has come and gone, and it's in a different format. So we need to kind of analyze the city for, just traffic and transportation issues, see what corridors and what intersections are problems or will be. So, as my memo states, we had a $500,000 of city money was budgeted, but as we started looking at the scope of work and what we needed to do, we realized we needed more. So I talked to traffic and I said, well, let me go and see if we can supplement that so we can do a proper study, and this study will guide what we're going to need for the next 10 to 15 years, transportation-wise, and give us a guide even beyond that. So this is an important study, and we have used RTA funds before for traffic studies and transportation studies.
Reb?
The question is, the city just came out and announced they had made a master plan to take us through, and I think it was 25-year plan, but they never said how they were going to pay for it. They had approved the plan, and it's a master transportation plan for the city, including intermodal, public transportation, as well as vehicular.
Which
How
one
are
is?
they? It was just voted on and reported
Is that-
publicly about, I want to say in the last 6
Is that the
weeks.
comprehensive? That's more of a, that's not just transportation, that's kind of a city growth zoning.
I understand, but how's that study going to be funded? Is it partially funded by this? They're getting information from it.
No, that study is done. That was funded through planning, and that one, and that's more of a guideline. This study will actually come with recommendations, identify projects to a more detailed level, like this road should be widened from 4 to 6, this intersection needs to be improved. So the plan you're talking about was more just kind of a comprehensive growth guideline. This is a...
That plan is more of an image of what you would want to see Colorado Springs be in 20.
I'd like to be able to see period at that time.
Yeah, but that's what that plan is about, is how do we want to see Colorado Springs in 25 years? This is actual physical changes and improvements, that's what we think.
Okay, Mike, I got a couple of comments on this one. PPACG is responsible for the long-term transportation planning for the city. And you said we've used some RTA funds for transportation planning in the past. I don't remember that, but that's not the issue. I guess my question is, for this intermodal transportation plan and the updates of some of these quarters, why isn't this a PPACG planning issue? And you've already covered 500K of this with city funds, general funds. I'm just, why isn't this a PPACG deal? And then the second cost, so you've already got 500K from the city, and now you're going to do 500K more, so you're thinking this transportation study is going to be $1 million?
Yes.
Okay. But do you have any comment on why it's not a PPACG planning?
I'm going to see if maybe somebody else can answer that, because I believe, my understanding of PPACG and those types and their role is, I don't know as much as Brian does.
Thank you, Mike.
Hi, Brian.
Good afternoon. Brian Vituli, City of Colorado Springs, Mountain Metro Transit. So PPACG is a regional transportation planning body, but all of the member governments that make up PPACG oftentimes do their own planning. That El Paso County has their major corridors plan that they do. Transit, we do our own transit plan. So it's not unusual that local governments do their own in-depth planning studies. So this is, like Mike said, this is probably a early 2000s plan that's been in need of being updated. So it's a long time coming, and it's a big effort. And
as you know, I've participated in a number of those in the past, and I understand the magnitude of the effort. I'm just questioning the source of funds. Okay,
sure.
That's all the question that I had on that one. Any other further questions on this particular one, 6C?
Just a quick question, Mike. If members of the public wanted to be involved in the public process, how would they do that?
That is going to be part of the process. There'll be a lot of public input, and we're working on the scope of work to put this RFP out, and I saw a draft of it, and there'll be a lot of input. There'll be meetings, announcements, meetings, and such. Because we want to hear from the citizens what's their concerns. I don't get up to the northeast part of town a lot, and I if I was working on it, I'd be working about getting everything done around my house, and so we need people from other areas of town to tell us what's going on.
Ann?
I have a question, too. I'm kind of new to this, but I'm also on the PPACG CAC, and I noticed you're pulling money, because I heard all about that road over by the airport, that they're going to do. So you're pulling this organization's money out of that to put on other projects.
Well, it's all RTA funds, and they're all RTA. They're all city projects.
Well, but the PPACG is multi-county, and they're doing something over there on Milton, whatever.
Milton Proby?
Yeah. I mean, at least that's what I'm trying to understand all this. I'm certainly not an engineer, but all these different funds, where you have to take this and pull this over, I approve of that. I think flexibility is good, but I was just at a meeting last week, and they were talking about these same things. So I'm just saying I still don't get it, but I'll try.
We can probably say with reasonable surety that they're not the same thing. So, Tom, you got another?
Were any PPRTA funds used to cover the cost of the El Paso County Major Transportation Corridor Plan?
Jennifer, can you answer that? I don't.
Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County. Our last plan was completed in 2016, and it was completed with all county road and bridge funds.
Carlos, just to bring you up real quick, we're working on agenda item 6. We're covering B through F covering them all, and then we'll go back and vote on them individually. Any other questions on this item for Mike? Reb?
It's not a question, it's a comment before any motion on items B through FR. The total requested but for line item transfer amounts to 24% of the budgeted amount for the account, this year's thing. It's just for information, it's 2.638 million. I think I did my math right. And that amounts to 24% of 13 million that was budgeted for this year for Academy, Fountain to Milton Proby. But it's all coming out of one project.
Temporarily, and that may be true, but the thing is we're not taking it away permanently. We'll put it back in, so.
Yeah, what concerns me is we're going to end up the same position we were with one. In PPRTA 1, we had to change or modify, and rightfully so, but Mark Sheffel South and part of Mark Sheffel North, we didn't have funds enough. And I'm kind of concerned about a downturn in the economy, not as severe as 2008 and 2009, but it's possible. And it's one of the concerns the board itself in terms of what's going to happen with a, quote, $10 million commitment. So we're trying to figure out how to make it all work together.
Which is a good concern. Now, the problem with Mark Sheffel was, I think a lot of the funding was supposed to be from developers, and the economy tanked, and so that never came to fruition. The programs we have, or projects we have from here on out, I don't think there's a heavy reliance on developer contribution, although we are going to be holding or going, if there's annexation agreements that call for them to contribute or build roads, we are going to be pursuing those quite heavily to make sure that they contribute or their portion or a portion.
Okay, we still have item 6F. David?
Earlier you said that you can keep track of when we transfer money from one project to another project. But what about when you transfer, like Rick said, from project to program?
Programs are also exactly the same, like there'll be a line item on the budget that has a program, and then this column, which you can't really see because this is just a working draft I have on the amended budget, but there's ins and outs for the amended transfers. And then so bottom line is 0, so it's the same. Because they're just, the programs, even though they're more general, there's still a capital project.
Okay, let's do item 6F.
Okay. The last item is looking at transferring $300,000 from Proby or Academy to the basically the citywide pedestrian transportation program, which we normally call the missing sidewalk project. Ryan Phipps runs that, and he has a plan and quadrants, and he's got about $750,000 worth of missing sidewalk programmed every year that he's identified. But we've had to use some of his funds to help supplement projects that are short. Like last year, the year before, we took some money out and directed it toward the Cascade improvements north of Fillmore. There was a transit grant and there was community development block grant that funded the majority of that, but we were a little short. So there was like $600,000 and $800,000, and we ended up using about $200,000 of RTA money to finish the project out. So he was a little short on doing what he had originally projected. So in order to not do that, have him come up short, I'm requesting $300,000 to help supplement a couple of grants that are a little short. One of them being the Fillmore corridor. Transit is rerouting the bus route from 4th Street to Fillmore, so we need to make all the ADA accessibility improvements in that. And most of that's covered through a transit grant and a CDOT grant, but in my little table I show that we've got costs of just almost $900,000. We've got $800,000 available, so I want to supplement that project with sidewalk money for $100,000. Now, in Van Buren, unfortunately, I was supposed to bring a memo, supplemental memo, because Van Buren project, which is going from T-Gap to Patrician Way, which is, I think, short of Union, that is a Safe Routes to School grant, but part of the grant requirements is that we make walkability and rideability, so we are going to road diet that section of Van Buren, and I need to come back with more info per RTA policy. So on this one, I guess I would like to see if we might at least be able to approve putting $100,000 into the Fillmore Street, and I'll come back next month with the Van Buren update to request that one.
Brian has a question.
Mike, is this only because the transit is changing their route? Because once you get past North Institute, it's almost all commercial. So I'm kind of wondering pedestrian and connectivity.
Well, it's been needed. I mean, moving the bus route to Fillmore has kind of made it more a priority. But Fillmore and from the highway to Institute Union is very heavily traveled by pedestrians. There's a lot of neighborhoods on the north and south that people do come up and go back and forth, and it's just not ADA accessible. So
That's the only reason I was asking, is because I go through there almost every single day,
Mhm.
and the only thing I see having difficulty getting through there are cars. I don't see people.
there's a lot of people. And we will generate more people once we move the route, too. So they'll be coming down.
Well, that's kind of why I was asking, is the switching of the route. Now, I know that on the north end, it would be the kind of the northwest end, up near Hancock there, obviously we've got the school over there and stuff like that, and there's definitely, a lot of connectivity to the neighborhoods to the south. But
So a little bit of more context to this. Probably 2013, 2014, Mountain Metro Transit received a grant through PPACG to improve the sidewalk conditions on 4th Street. So currently, Route 6 operates on Fillmore, but it jogs north on El Paso to 4th Street and down Hancock back to Fillmore.
Right.
And before we implemented that grant, transit, we would prefer to operate on major streets
makes sense.
rather than going through neighborhoods. And in some cases, we still do go through neighborhoods, but we would like to straighten out our routes, provide good pedestrian facilities for people to walk to our routes. Our routes are a little bit more timely, they're more direct. When you're trying to get someplace to the east and the bus goes north and takes you in the wrong direction, you can tend to get a little bit nervous. So, but it's an on-time performance thing, and actually having a transit service on Fillmore with the addition of good sidewalk facilities, we could actually increase ridership. I mean, there's a lot of demand on Fillmore. There's a lot of stuff for people to go to, and but the reason we didn't have service there is because there's no safe way to walk, and so we said before we implement this grant, let's go through the public process and get the route changed, but not implement the routing change until the sidewalk conditions are improved.
And that triggers the ADA,
Yeah.
and okay.
Right, so back in spring of 2017, we had our public process to change the routing, but with the caveat that we would not change the routing until the sidewalks were constructed. So that's kind of where we are now. And it's an expensive project.
Red?
Mike, if I understood you, you just said you'd be happy if we just granted 100,000 transfer?
For Fillmore this time, and then I'll come back next month to talk about Van Buren.
What will you bring us back on Van Buren? In other words, why can't we just approve the $300,000 now.
Well, according
And
to
a trust-
Rick's going to come up with the policy on,
Okay, that's what I'm,
Because your
road
road, because your road, if you're narrowing Van Buren, which is a wide road,
yes.
is that
you
it?
you have to come and notify the board prior to that policy,
In writing.
in writing. So
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Van Buren is a wide road, the sidewalks and alleyways are very intermittent, if existing at all. It is, I drive that area a lot. I got a question on Fillmore, Mike. Did that answer your
Well,
question?
no, I'm going to go back to Mike. Why didn't they do that on Bermejo? Where's the written notification that they're taking 4 lanes of traffic plus 2 parking lanes and going to 2 lanes of traffic, period? That's on Bermejo when it's something that has gone.
Parking on both sides of the street.
Yeah, parking on both sides of the street.
Yeah, and in the future.
Maybe it's not being done by PPRTA money.
It sure
No,
is.
it is. I'm not sure that might have been an oversight on.
Well, in writing is a briefing that the board got 2 months ago, is a notification of their plans, right?
That's what, basically I'm asking you, does that fulfill it? They've come and said, this is our plan, and we're going to give you $400,000 to do it, or
Ryan's
what?
PowerPoint is in writing.
Supplemented by verbal discussion.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Godfrey, can I just have a question? For this is Bermejo, to follow up on that. Were there transportation capacity reductions as part of the Bermejo improvements?
Yes.
Not parking, transportation capacity.
Transportation, you go from 2 lanes to, 4 lanes to 2, and the lanes are narrow.
All right, this discussion didn't own Vermejo, so let's
No,
keep our.
I'm just-
Yeah, okay, then in that case, then it would, just to go back, it probably would fall, I did not realize Bermejo was a road-dieted project. I thought it was staying the same, it was just being restriped to accommodate parking, and Bermejo is kind of an open street, but anyways, we digress, and I just had that question. Thank you.
Well, and that's what, as I was looking at the grant, I realized, and I talked to Rick, and I was supposed to bring a memo, but I didn't get to it, so like I said, we can put this one off. We're not going to construction on this just yet, so we got time.
Do you want to offer to Mike a compromise that the CAC accept his notification to the CAC of the road dieting, and then if Mike gives the memo by in the morning for the board packet, then the board is notified in writing? Do you want to entertain such a compromise?
Did everybody hear
Actually,
that?
I don't want to, because I'm not sure I'll be able to get it by tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
And like I said, this is not as critical, so we can put it off.
Okay, I have a question about the Fillmore portion of it. As Brian alluded, and you did as well, and anybody who travels that, I'm concerned about any sidewalk improvements we put in and then come back in and have to redesign the road surface. Because that road has been on study after study after study for the last 15 years of needing improvement. And so I hope this wouldn't be throwaway money for sidewalks and then come back in and have to redo the road surface. There's very little right-of-way to do a whole lot of widening up there on that, but you're taking this into consideration.
Yes, and I don't anticipate being able to do much with Fillmore unless that becomes a major project, because he said to do any substantial improvements is a major widening, a lot of right-of-way, and it probably is cost prohibitive.
Okay. David?
I look at Fillmore, the section you're at, and I'm wondering why are we doing it here and not on the hill? But there's absolutely no sidewalk, and one sidewalk's there, it's not the switchback asphalt.
Well, we take care of this area, then we can concentrate on the hill, because, but the hill does not have as much foot traffic. There are people who walk, they do walk it, but, I drive up and down Fillmore quite a bit, and there's, that commercial area, there's a lot of people walking to the business and stuff, so it's. Yeah. Well, that's something well, let me up my request for $2 million and we'll take it all. We can do it all. It's just a matter of, just bites at a time.
All right, so.
Was that the end of it? Yeah.
So any other questions on this one? All right, so let's go through, and if you look in the upper right-hand column of your memos, you'll see the 6B, 6 number, whatever. So let's, I want to make sure that everyone's had an opportunity to ask any questions, voice any concerns on any of these, and then we'll go through and just call them off. And I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to approve or disapprove, and then we'll take a vote. Is that okay with everybody from a procedural point of view? Okay. All right. Rev?
The reason I changed it, just for your information, was so we didn't have a whole bunch of splitting and divide. The reason I asked for the change in the agenda is so we got all the information on all of these at one time, and then to me, it's an up or down. And I will move for item 6A with a negative approval going forward. To me, we're...
For 6 who?
Isn't
For
that
6A.
6A,
I did it intentionally.
we've already voted on 6A.
Oh, I'm sorry, 6B. I didn't learn the alphabet as a kid. I number is okay. It's 6B. I move approval.
6B approval. We have a second for Larry. All those in favor of 6B?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, 6B carries. 6C is a two-part approval. It is the approval of the transfer of the money and approval of a contract to Blue Ridge Construction. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve as stated.
Brian and Larry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One, aye. And can I explain why, real quick?
Sure.
We've had problems with, in the past, they awarded contracts without prior approval. I'm sorry?
I'm also voting against.
So we have 2 nays,
3.
3 nays, 3 nays, 4 nays, 4 nays.
Hey, this is supposed to be...
Okay, so the motion carries. All those in favor say aye. And then, and the 4 nays, right? All right, okay. 6D, which is the Printers Parkway roundabout. Hear a motion to Scott and Larry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 1 nay. Okay.
2 nays.
2 nays, sorry. 6E, which is the Transportation Planning Intermodal Plan, 500K. Hear a motion?
Real point of procedure, real quick. Does the person keeping the records need to identify the nays?
No.
Okay, so it's not a roll call? Okay, cool. Thanks.
6E, motion. I move a motion to accept.
Second.
Larry, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 1 opposed, David? Okay.
2?
2?
I saw 2, yeah.
Yeah.
3?
There's
3?
3
Okay.
nays.
3 nays. All right, 6F. That's the Fillmore corridor only. The second part, Van Buren, is being postponed until next month. So I entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to entertain a motion for the full $300,000 line item transfer, subject to approval of the Fillmore portion. Or if Mike would prefer, I will cut it to $100,000 as his perception for just Fillmore.
Well, I mean, like I said, if
This document already requests the $300,000, but...
Does it discuss Van Buren?
no, it doesn't.
Pardon?
I just don't want to violate our...
Yeah, let's just split that. And just
Make it?
Yeah, do it right.
Okay.
Just the 100K?
Yeah, for Fillmore.
For Fillmore.
Okay, I would adjust my motion as follows. Recommend approval of the Fillmore Street corridor with a transfer of only $100,000, line item transfer.
Second.
And Scott seconds it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? David? Oh, we got, all right, hold your hands up again, guys, so we can get a count. Three nays. All right.
All right.
Thank you all for that.
Thanks, Mike.
So we have 6G, City Colorado Springs contracts.
Okay, so the first contract I'm looking for approval is a preliminary design for AECom for the Black Forest widening for $739,000. And that one will do a study of the corridor, what we need, and based on that, they'll come up with what width it should be built, and then we'll design it and go to construction.
And this is the Black Forest
From
widening,
from-
not Mark Shuffle.
Black Forest from
Yeah.
Woodman to
Research. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just had a comment on the package. The financial information with the funds available, I know there's a comment or a footnote there, request to transfer additional money to the project is on the agenda. It says funds available, it kind of assumes that would pass. Just for clarification to the board, I'd like to see that broken into two portions. The portions is actually the 2019 budgeted amount plus the line item. Would that be reasonable to just split those? Just to clarify, because the funds technically have not been approved by the board. We're recommending or advising that they do that, but it has not been approved formally by the board. Would that be reasonable to just put that clarification on the memo?
Yeah.
The 12, it's 1.2 million, but it's,
Yeah,
if I
we
recall,
have
it's
700 approved and.
Yeah, and if it somehow, God forbid, it's not approved by the board, then we would have a shortfall. And that's what I think would be the reason I would recommend we just enhance this memo, just to put that on there. It's just a recommendation.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Next item?
Okay, next item is change order for AECom for the Pikes Peak reconstruction. Basically, we've gone a little bit longer than originally anticipated. So this $134,000 is for, what is it, an additional 8 weeks. We opened up the road, I think Monday, it's open now, and we're looking at finishing probably in July.
Okay.
What, Mike? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
One quick question. Give me, I know it's here. One quick question. I asked before, and I asked you, who can I talk to? I'm curious, as an engineer and road builder, so to speak. You have used a white foam-like substance. You did it from Union East to Printers Parkway. And
That was a lime treatment.
it's just lime?
Yeah, it was.
For soil stabilization?
And it foamed.
Yeah, it's a foam. I was just
I
wondering.
mean, it foamed when they wet it down. We're compacting it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I just saw that this afternoon when I rode by there, so. Brian?
Mike, could you just give us a few examples of the unforeseen conditions that popped up during this?
One of them, see, there's a lot. One of them right near the beginning when they, over the bridge or Shook's Run, they found a large pipe that was abandoned, and we had to fill that. It was, we didn't want to leave it void.
Right.
I'm trying to think of some other ones. Ryan's been doing a really good job that I haven't really. But I think some of the unexpected costs that kind of came right before we went to construction is some stormwater, water quality requirements, and I think just old utilities and some unsuitable material. As far as unexpected extras, we actually are doing pretty good. Hasn't been too bad. I think it's just been work that we needed to do that we didn't foresee.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much we didn't expect it, but
Kind of stuff that popped up as you dug?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Did I understand you thought that was going to be finished for the second discussion in the fall?
No, I think this summer, July.
Well, I've given you 3 months leeway. I've been questioned by so many people. I go to a church.
We've been at it for a year and a half. I know people have been thinking it's been 2 years or more, but it's only been about a year and a half. And that's a big project.
Yeah, it is.
So, okay. Next item is approving a design contract for AECOM for the Academy reconstruction, and this is for both segments, the Bijou to Airport and the Fountain to Milton Proby Parkway. And this is 1.4 is only for preliminary design. I think the total design is something like in the 2.5 million, but we'll come back for the final design approval when they're done. And the reason we do that is rather we don't want the consultants padding their final design because they're not sure what they're going to have to design. So we'd like them to go through the preliminary alternative analysis and get to a solution that we're going to go with it to finalize, and then they can give us better numbers on that.
Mr. Chair, I did have a question about this as well. This is a combined contract, $1.4 million for both capital A projects.
Yes.
Maybe this is just more of an accounting question for Bev, but how is the funds being divided between the two capital projects? Is it being allocated to one? Is it going to be split half, 50-50? Is there an allocation or distribution among the two capital projects for tracking purposes as far as the budget is concerned?
Oh, I see.
It's just a roll-up two projects, but when we look at the capital expenditures going forward, I'll see it. Where will I see it?
When they bill, we'll probably split it closely to those percentages, whatever the 3.3 and 9.9 is. They'll probably bill against that. Just that's the kind of from their time that they'll spend probably three quarters of the time on the larger portion and a quarter on the smaller. So they'll just bill us that.
So those projects then, if equal, that would be in other words, one project isn't going to be more difficult or require more expense than the other project. It's fairly even distribution of the engineering effort.
No, well, I think the larger project's going to take up probably three quarters of the design effort. Just because it's longer and larger, but it's also the landfill area, so there'll be more effort put in there. But they'll track their time.
There's two separate project numbers and there are two separate line items in the budget. So.
Yeah, but it's one contract, and so when the invoices come in, when Bev pays the invoices,
they split.
Front page, tell those, and they have both projects and assign an amount to each one. Each time they have a bill. So it works out pretty good.
yeah, I assumed that was the case. I just wanted to hear that. Thank you.
Tom?
We pay pretty good sum generally for engineering services on these projects, and yet we seem to have a lot of unknown unknowns. And my question is, does the government always cover the cost? Do the engineering firms ever participate in the additional cost of time? Does the contractor ever participate, since they're ultimately responsible for bringing it? And do you have fixed completion dates in the contract as part of it, and then penalties kick in?
So if there's negligence, if they make a mistake, the consultant does pay. If they blow something, we expect them to pay. The unforeseen circumstances, that's something that is addressed in our contract. That basically, it's kind of hard to stick the consultant or the contractor with something that nobody knows about. Now, we are going to be doing more detailed subsurface engineering because of the state law that passed that requires us to do more effort. So in that vein, we may see less of the unforeseen circumstances. But
this one's got like an 8% time overrun on it.
A what?
This one's got like an 8% time overrun, 10 weeks out of 90 to get it up to 96 point.
Yeah, and I don't. Well, actually, if they're unexcused delays, there are liquidated damages. But if they're legitimate weather or something comes up that we didn't foresee, that adds time for them to fix. If they're going to put a storm sewer in and turns out they got to overdig, and with that extra time, that is, we can't put that on them.
How is that ultimately decided?
If the contractor will request extra time if they feel, and we'll evaluate it on where we think it's
so. Is
or
that
not.
Decided by the son of NV5?
By what?
by the follow-on contract to the people who have the NV5 contract?
The contractor submits it to the CM. The CM then gives it to the city staff, which it may be NV5 project, or my project manager, city one, and with a recommendation, and we ultimately decide where we think it's legitimate or not. And we negotiate. We did that with Cottonwood Academy, with utilities. They came with a bunch of claims, and we looked at them, and we actually, I talked about that last month, we actually settled it, and we put all the cost on CSU and not the contractor.
And
This isn't really about this project, but when you talk about pavement settlement and deterioration due to insufficient stormwater, is that what creates sinkholes? Is that why we get sinkholes in our roads? Is that what that means?
Sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Las Vegas?
Las Vegas Royer, we are finalizing that design. It's a change order for FHU for some additional tasks that they are finalizing to get that approved. That one has to go through the PUC, so there have just been a few right-of-way issues. There's CDOT, there's city, and there's county, so trying to clarify all that. They had to do a little more work on drainage and water quality issues, just some final things that were above their original scope of work.
Any questions on that? Carlos?
Yeah, I did have questions, of course, on this one, since it impacts the Shooks Run Trail. For the Task 4, will that bring our design to pretty much 100% complete for design work on this project?
Yes.
Task 4, because I think it's been tracked at 90% for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
This is just to
there's
bring it up
just
to
a lot
100, the other 10%, is that what this is doing?
Yeah, this will finalize it.
Finalize design. And then after this, when do we expect the construction contracts to be let for this project?
We'd like to try to get it out this summer or fall. Like I said, the main hurdle right now is just getting the PUC to approve the railroad agreement and all that.
And you're still comfortable with the 18 months construction schedule for construction? Is that was a working number? Is that still reasonable for this project, based on what you know?
Yeah, 18. Yeah, I'm not sure it would take that long.
18. Okay. It can go faster. It depends on.
Yeah,
how
I haven't
it's-
really seen what kind of timeline.
Okay, so summer or fall for the construction
Start. Yeah.
and we go from there. All right. Thank you.
Okay, citywide intersection
And
improvement.
the last one is some traffic, basically on South Nevada near Navajo, there's all that new development. They're putting a signal, they're going to cut the median, put a signal into that shopping center. It's basically where Big O Tires is, based on this.
That market, that new fresh market.
Yeah. Mhm. So based on the traffic studies, they've determined that a signal is needed there, so.
A lot of people crossing mid-block there. Scott?
This seems like this intersection improvement and signal primarily benefits the shopping center. Why would they not be on the hook to pay for this improvement instead of RTA?
I'm not sure about that, man. That's a development issue, and I don't get too involved in them. I think maybe. Oh, let me look into that, and I'll address it with the board next week.
Mr. Chair, I did lots of questions today.
No, that's fine.
A lot of stuff here. It's the South Nevada Community Development Signal Improvement. Which capital project? Maybe I missed it, but I went back and looked at the ballot measure and
It's coming
could
out
not find
citywide
it.
intersection improvements.
Can we put this in the memorandum to describe which capital project? I know you have a budget code, but for those who are not in the know, that would be, unless it's there somewhere. The title says Project South Nevada. That is the project, but it's coming out of the citywide signal improvement capital project.
Yeah, I didn't catch it. It should be in the budget category.
Yeah, that would be good
Yeah.
for the Board of
I
Directors to know which category it is, because this is not a specific capital project explicitly called out. Thank you.
Good catch. Okay. Okay.
Quick question. I guess Mike, if I could just go back to the Royer thing real quick. The graphic that you guys provided says Las Vegas Royer alternative number 5.
Well, that was the depiction that comes close to what we're doing. I was just looking for an exhibit. And
Okay, because I was going to say, I actually had to pull up a map to double check, because I'm like, that's US 24 and near Hancock. That's a mile up from
yes,
Royer.
so yes, so this crossing is being moved east from Royer to Spring Creek, which is on the north side. That's the CSU Leon Young.
Right.
Yeah, and
So Royer is actually not going to be Royer. It's going to be up there.
yeah, it'll be closed off.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Reb?
I'd make a motion to accept items 1 through 5 on his summary sheet as presented.
I have a second to accept. Ed? Ed has a second. Any further discussion on any of the contracts? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries all 6.
All right,
Thank you. El Paso County. Jennifer, you had a walk-on, is that correct?
Correct. So I had an extra handout. Does everybody have one of those?
What are we looking at? I guess not.
Nope.
Thanks.
And so with that, I have 3 items, and I'll address that one last.
Okay.
Now I close my book. So the first item I have today for you is related to West Colorado Avenue. This is a Csu Gas Line Relocation, and we originally came to you earlier this year or late last year, I think late last year, to talk about and gave you a list. If you look at 1, 2, 3, page 4, I think, that looks like this. Yes.
Everybody have the new handout that was at your place?
And I'll address that one last. But we originally we received an estimate from CSU in relationship to this gas line at $77,304.35. As they did the work, then they have completed that work on that relocation, and our final bill for that relocation is $99,204. So what we're asking for today is the additional amount, the $21,900.37 for that CSU relocation of that gas line. And you know, they estimated that based upon time and materials, and it just came in a little bit higher. The next item is the last of our major maintenance contracts for this year. I came to you last month with most of those, but we had our asphalt overlay program still in negotiations. So this is with Mark Marietta, and this is for our 2019 paving list. If you notice, the contract amount we're requesting is $7.2 million. Typically, we do about $4 million worth of work, but we've had some accumulation of some rollover, and so we're taking advantage of that and adding in for this year approximately about $3 million of some of that rollover that we've had of maintenance, so that we're actually spending some additional money this year. So that's kind of a blip in the radar, and so that's great. We took our paving list to our Board of County Commissioners earlier this month, and earlier in April, and had that approved. So once we have this contract approved, we're going to get out there and start in late May and get some asphalt paving done. And then finally, my walk-on item, and I apologize. This one was overlooked when we sent the packet to Rick. So we are asking for an additional contract amendment for the Highway 105 project, and this is in your handout. We've been under design phase on this project for a little bit, but we started with an overall corridor plan for the entire project, and then we have broken out the initial project, which is, we're calling it Project A, and it's from Woodmore to Lake Woodmore. And reason why we're breaking that out is that we have some additional federal funds that we had identified for that project that we had received through PPACG. So we were able to get some additional funding for that project. So we broke that project out, and that is the area of the project that is actually going to 4 lanes, and is in the more of the area of adjacent to the town of Monument, which really needs some significant improvements. So we've gone through preliminary design, some final design, and we are coming back to you with some supplemental requests for final design. We have had to relook at some access locations that are pretty difficult there, related to a school and also a church. And so we wanted to make sure that before we got underway with the project that we are doing the right thing. So we are going back to reevaluate some options in regards to the access there, primarily to ensure that we get to the best solution. And so we're going to go through some 4 additional alternative analysis for the access points there, and then also determine the final best solution. We went back and looked at that area just because we were having so many issues and concerns in regards to the school access. And what we may find is that there's some significant work that the school may need to do at a future date on their own property.
Is that the school and the church is kind of just east of the gas station, near the top of the hill there? Or
Yep.
It's going up on the
Yep.
north side? Just right in that same area, there's a road, is it intersect right near the bank, I think, that's got a pretty steep incline coming right up to the highway, and it's just below the crest of the hill. Is that's the general area you're talking about?
Yeah, so essentially from Woodmore there to Lake
Woodmore is the name of the road
yeah.
I'm trying to think of.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have in our scope revising that traffic study, looking at a whole nother host of alternatives, and then also including some time in there for public meetings if we determine that we need to do that. And then also looking at an additional westbound acceleration lane west of Knollwood Boulevard and the Highway 105 intersection. So we're looking and adding in some additional elements just because we found an additional need there. So, and then we have allocated some additional funds to the project, assuming that as a result of the traffic study that we're going to have to modify our existing final design to look at that. And then as we entered some property negotiations with one of the properties there, we are reconfiguring our drainage, a drainage pond that we have on that property that we're acquiring some property for right there at the corner of Highway 105 and Lake Woodmore. So, and then also we have a retaining wall there that as a result of adjusting some of the property, that there's a retaining wall on private property that's very close to where the final alignment of the roadway will go. So we want to make sure that that the final design accommodates and looks at that retaining wall to make sure that we don't have a problem there. So we're going to do a structural evaluation of that retaining wall, and then adjust our retaining wall plan if as necessary. And so we also have to do a geotechnical analysis of that as well. And then we have also had some additional right-of-way acquisition that we've identified as a result of this, so we put in some scope in there. So essentially, as a result of relooking at the accesses and making sure that we're doing the right thing for the entire corridor, we're adding in some additional $412,000.
Reb?
I move approval of item 6H, and I'm going to call it 6H1 with permission, the added walk-on.
Second. Brian, second. Any discussion on this before we vote? All those in favor
No.
say aye. Oh, wait, hold, Carlos?
This is a question, I will be supporting this. explain again, I missed what you were saying about the right-of-way acquisition or property acquisition. Is this part of the Amendment 5, or is that so 412, how much was it for right-of-way in that amount, and versus the one that's going to HDR? And again, I'm going to be supporting it. I do understand that, there's changes here, and we'll have to acquire property.
So that's for acquisition services.
Oh,
and it's
acquisition
all-
services.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
all under the HDR. So we have TRS, which is an acquisition services, who is a sub under HDR. So it's all with HDR Incorporated, who is an engineering firm.
Oh, they're one of the subcontractors to
Yep.
HDR, and they're going to be handling the services related to the acquisition of the right-of-way.
Yes, sir.
And then later on, we'll see, once they negotiate with the landowner, the process there for property acquisition. All right, I just missed that. Thank you. I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Jennifer, I have a quick question. It says final design. Is the final design available on the website?
No, not yet. So we are going through the different alternatives for this kind of segment right there in front of the church. And as a result, then once we do that traffic analysis, we're going to go talk with those property owners. If we need to, we'll do a public meeting. But really, the change, whether we have a divided median, so they have right-in, right-outs, whether it's a three-quarter, there's a whole host of different access configurations there that we are looking at. And so we are going to go, direct impact is to the property owners, so we're going to be talking to them.
Is there in the design a right turn lane onto I-25?
We're really not going past Jackson Creek Parkway
No, I understand
significantly. Yeah.
But as you head east, is there a right turn lane onto I-25?
No, that's not part of this project. That's within the CDOT right-of-way.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call for vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Just for clarity, that was for all three items that the county brought forward. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you all.
Okay, member government's other reports. Item 7, City of Colorado Springs Transit Services. Brian.
Good afternoon, Brian Vitulli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit with your monthly transit report. For March of 2019, our fixed route services provided a little over 241,000 trips. There was a decrease of about 5%. We did lose one day of operation, one weekday, because of weather, the bomb cyclone, so that really hit us pretty well for that month. Plus, there was also an additional weekday in March of 2018, so we are a little bit behind, but we're not too concerned about that. For our ADA powered transit services, we have a decrease of 13% over that time period. And for van pools, we operated 25 van pools this March, provided about 3,300 one-way trips, and that also took a hit of about a 10% decrease, probably also due to the weather. For a project update, we just implemented our spring service changes on Sunday and on Monday. So this includes starting a new route to the northern hospitals. Operates on Union from Academy and Union or Montebello Square up Union to Memorial North Hospital. Children's Hospital is still somewhat behind in finishing off their construction. I think we're planning a big event, ribbon cutting, grand opening, August 1st, I believe, for that. So, but that service is running now. And then we implemented the remainder of the service changes on Sunday. A couple upcoming planning projects. You've been hearing about this for some time. We're about ready to kick off our 2045 regional transit plan. and our Specialized Transportation Coordination Plan. So again, this is, every 4 years we update the regional plan for transit, and this is a second cycle that we're partnering with PPACG to have one consultant team perform both processes, so for both plans. There's a lot of efficiencies and getting the same people in the same room to talk about somewhat same but also different topics is a great idea, and it's worked really well in the past, and we plan, we hope that and are pretty sure that it will work great this time too. And then shortly behind that plan will be a kickoff for the North Nevada Avenue Transit Corridor analysis. So this is following on the heels of a 2016 master planning process that the city had in that stretch of North Nevada between Fillmore and Garden of the Gods and Austin Bluffs. And then in 2017, there was a transportation subplan that looked at all transportation in the corridor, but kind of just skimmed over transit, knowing that we were going to be coming on its heels to do a detailed transit corridor analysis. So we're going to look at, existing transit in the corridor, current future conditions. We look to identify a preferred alignment through that corridor. There's an abandoned rail right-of-way to the east side of Nevada Avenue. We plan to identify the preferred mode, whether it's an existing fixed route bus like we have now, or bus rapid transit, or some other type of high-frequency service. And then look at, transit service levels. Is transit ridership expected to increase dramatically in that corridor? And what's it going to look like in the future?
You got that urban renewal project through there too.
Yeah. So it's a grand plan to have everything in place. So as that section of North Nevada redevelops, there's a plan in place, and there's a great process to follow. So that will be coming up, probably sometime early summer, and we'll keep you updated as that progresses, and we'll probably be forming stakeholder committees for both of those projects, and there will be opportunities for the public to participate and comment. So we look forward to that.
Any questions for Brian? Ann?
There's an abandoned rail right-of-way to the east side of Nevada Avenue, that kind of in between Nevada Avenue and the Colorado Springs Utilities
Power
substation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Brian, nothing on this, just a question. In reading the article in the paper on Sunday, I guess, about the whole growth in Fillmore, at Interquest, and up that way. Are you guys, is that in the back of your mind? With all the growth that's going on, the apartments, housing units, all of that up there, and now that you're kind of going up to Pikes Peak anyway, is there any thought in the back of your mind keeping track of that? And I know that funding's an issue, it's complicated in terms of timing, but is that on your radar anywhere at all?
Well, have several answers. So, as we start this 2045 transit planning process, we're still following through with the recommendations of the 2040 plan that said let's improve what we have first before we expand, and when there are opportunities to expand, let's seek partnerships to help pay for them. So we're still following that model pretty closely. And, with the Northern Hospital route and the route to PPCC's Rampart campus, that's just what we've done. We've gotten partnerships with all of those parties, and we have a Colorado Springs Health Foundation grant to help pay for those for 2 years. So I think in the meantime we're still sticking to that model, but we're starting to develop. We have an opportunity for additional RTA monies through the amendment this summer. We have our 2020 service plan and our 2020 general fund budget that we're developing. So we're thinking of all of these things. I mean, we've heard requests from our riders that we need more frequency, we need more weekday evening, Saturday, Sunday service. We need a route to the airport. We need a downtown circulator. So we have a really long list of unfunded needs, and it's probably just a matter of time before we go into areas like this. But I still think until development occurs that really benefits transit, high-density development that is good for transit, that impacts our ridership in positive ways. I think we're looking more at improvements that fit that more than serving low-density neighborhoods. And yeah, there's a lot of retail in that area, but with the budget that we have to kind of make those priorities and those hard decisions. So it's, I hear you though, but.
Understand, yeah.
So it'll be added to the list.
Yeah. All right, great. Well,
okay. Yeah.
all right, thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Item 7B is the monthly change order property acquisition for the city. It's information. Anybody have any questions about the change orders or that? Seeing none, the next item, 7C, same change order stuff for El Paso County. Any questions for Jennifer on that? Seeing none. Item 8, administrative actions and reports.
Report of recent board actions. 8A is in your packet. You'll notice item number 5, where the board approved the Spine Road on a vote of 6-2 with the IGA to come back to the CAC board for review and approval. Any other questions on this memo? What? Right, it's probably 4 or 5 times in 14 years. The IGA, the three-way IGA.
Just for the record, who were the two who voted against? I already know because I asked Jim, but.
Okay. County Commissioners Williams and Waller.
Good.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
I commented on it at the board meeting, and yes, I'm aware 3 of those 4 or 5 times that we've been overridden by the board have happened in the last year. And I'm concerned about PPRTA 3, and I think I may have chosen the wrong word. I asked about the reputation of PPRTA, and literally there were comments, they weren't concerned with their reputation. And when I say that, I don't know whether they were as a group because there was no discussion, but the comments came. And when I say that, I think I chose the wrong word, reputation. We, quote, take it as a group, and if we're overridden, we take it as a group. Even though you agree with the board's decision or disagree, doesn't make any difference. We take it as a group, or at least I do. When I say that, I probably should have used the word, and I finally figured out what I should have used, or I think I should have used, and that is the word credibility. When we go out and talk to the public to promote PPRTA 3, will our credibility be questioned? So I apologize for what I perceive now as choosing the wrong word, using reputation instead of credibility. Sorry, Rick, I didn't.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on 8A? Okay, are we ready for 8B? This is simply listing the steps that I've negotiated with CDOT regarding paying the $10 million that the voters approved in November 2017 for the portion of the I-25 gap that's within El Paso County. So Step one will happen in the next few days as soon as Bev gets the draft audit from the external auditor, and then we'll have an exact figure, the 3.6 million, and change the exact amount in number 2 to invite CDOT to invoice us, and then we'll carry out the other steps that are listed there in the memo. Any questions? Okay. 8C, definitions of maintenance projects and capital projects. Bev and I are unsure how the CAC wants to proceed with this, so we've offered the concept of a subcommittee, but we're open to whatever the CAC would like to do with this.
Just for, if I could, a little historical perspective, back in, I think it was 2007, when the Public Outreach Subcommittee was formed to look at establishing kind of public outreach guidelines, because there wasn't any kind of standardized outreach between all the member governments when it came to addressing the public. It was there was some, one government was doing it one way, one government was doing another, and we kind of all worked together to come into a generalized understanding of how, with regard to PPRTA projects, how the public was going to be approached and addressed. We actually had a discussion back at that time about, that's how far back this goes. It goes back even further than that, regarding the capital versus maintenance definitions. So I think a subcommittee, if we really want to get into it, I liked the information that the staff provided at the previous meeting. I think a subcommittee, if we're going to dig into it, is probably a wise choice. But it's going to be additional time burden on staff and members of the committee who want to participate. So that's just something for us to consider.
Joan, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that I would like to see this as a subcommittee and discuss it and see if we can come up with something. And just do it in a subcommittee, come back to this committee.
Okay. If I may, I missed last meeting, but I did read not every word, but most of the handout that was provided. Here's my take. Regardless of what we as individuals on the committee think about this, the member governments have standard operating procedures and generally accepted accounting principles that account for things. And if we don't like the definition of maintenance or stuff, we have no authority to force them to change anything. And we would probably just be wasting time. My recommendation is, my thoughts are that we're not going to get the member governments to change their accounting principles on how they account for it. The information that was provided for last month's meeting had several other infrastructure-type accounting procedures and processes and definitions. They had the generally accepted accounting principle things. And I found that, as Brian has noticed, this is not the first time this has come up. We've questioned these kinds of things. And I have great confidence in Bev and Rick and the staff in terms of if an invoice comes in and it appears to be charged to the wrong account, there is a questioning process, a challenge process that they go through with those invoices. Those invoices get discussed prior to the board meeting, at the meeting that we have, and those kind of things, in addition to dialogue that Rick and Bev have with the government. I would like to recommend to the group that we take this packet and the information and treat it as information. I think the question came out of ignorance or not a full understanding of some things, and not necessarily, and I may be wrong, I know there's been challenges of whether something should be maintenance or what, but when you read this and you read the general accepting accounting principles, it kind of defines some of that. And some of the more recent examples that we've seen since in the last 2 or 3 years, those, while we may not agree with some of those examples, they tend to, when you extrapolate what the accounting principles and stuff are saying, they kind of fall within those guidelines. I only spent 21 years in this business. I'm not a CPA by any means, but I had a lot of CPAs and stuff working for me. And so I would just throw that out. If the group wants to have a subcommittee put together, I think the first thing we would need to do is, what is the expected outcome of that in terms of, we're going to invest in this, what is the expected outcome? I know there's some members of the board that also have questioned whether there has been maintenance or capital on some things. But I just throw that out, my own opinion, having read through this, and as Brian said, been through this discussion more than one time. So, Reb and then Rick.
I don't know, I'm not just addressing you. There was a comment made last month that this has been tried, I think it's 3 times before, I'm not sure of that exact quantity, and it's been unsuccessful. When I say this, doesn't mean you quit. That's my opinion. I think it needs to be done for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have questions. Joan looks at the project and Tom looks at the project. One thinks it's capital, one thinks it's maintenance. And Rick and I have had several private discussions, so to speak, and I don't care. I can get on both sides of the argument on most of the projects we discuss. The problem is they have, program funds, and they have a choice of putting them and calling them maintenance, or they have the choice of calling them capital. And those project funds are not well defined. We are putting $45 million into the city and PPRTA, into a project that is down to $43 million now. And they're using a combination of capital and maintenance and anything else they can grab to literally change, alter Vermejo Street, Saguache, or San Miguel, sorry.
Sierra Madre.
Sierra Madre. Oh, I'll get to the right.
One of those S's.
One of those streets down to the west of Saguache. Anyway, basically, it gives us a little better leverage to argue for or against, and the city. But I personally think that we are being used or abused, and I don't limit the situation to those examples. But basically, there have been more rejections of our recommendations in the last 18 months than the prior, 17 years? No, that doesn't make
14 total.
Okay, so literally in the last year and a half compared to the previous 12 and a half. So I would be in favor of a subcommittee and trying to get something so that our opinions are respected. Still, I'm sorry, Rick.
This one's cutting him off.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I made my position known last meeting, but I think maybe it's because I'm looking at it differently than what you might be looking at it. I'm looking at it as each of us have to decide what it is, whether it's capital or whether it's maintenance. And I think that handout, like Jim said, has enough examples of different styles or methods that we ought to use those to educate ourselves on how to look at a project. And then we vote based on educating ourselves of different types of concepts.
So I think that the subcommittee, if that's what the board wants, fine, I'm not going to waste my time on it. But this here is a very, very good layout of a lot of different concepts that I think if we make it part of the planning process, when a new member comes on, or we take it home and study it ourselves, and maybe accept one of them or a combination of different parts of them, then we can come back and make an intelligent decision on whether it's a maintenance or a capital. Now, as far as us being overturned, that could be our fault or it could be the board's fault. I don't think it's either one. I think it's that projects have come up that have been more contested than normal. So, just saying.
Tom?
The information provided to us by staff was great, but it was more voices. It wasn't a policy. It was talking from all different sides of the issue, providing information, which is what we were looking for. I think we do need to have a policy set. That's part of that golden rule thing. He who has the gold sets the rules, and you're right that the cities and the towns do have their own policies and everything else, but they're coming to us asking for funding. And we need to have a standard on what that funding line, where it falls.
Just to add to that, if you recall, as a matter of fact, Jim made a personal inspection of it, of a couple of culverts. They weren't a bridge. When I say that, we found out, and we've accepted as a group, that a culvert, anything larger than 48 inches in diameter, is a bridge, according to the city. Fine, they have a policy. It's not that we're trying to change their policy. We don't have to question, well, why are you calling this a bridge? Because most of us, and we're not engineers necessarily. A lot of them are. Well, a lot of them are. I'll reserve that statement. A lot of them expect an abutment at each end, and it does not require a pier or two or three in the middle, but it requires, and they're spanning bridges span arroyos, rivers, you name it. The point is, there's an understanding now, at least as far as I'm concerned, the city came and explained, and it was Aaron Egbert that explained the city's policy has long been, and they adopted it from CDOT. And all I'm saying is, I move that we ask for committee volunteers.
Tom? Oh, Joan?
And just one comment. I don't think any of us on this board questions Rick or Bev's integrity or how they do their job or whatever. So this is nothing against either one of them because they do impeccable work, and I don't think anybody can argue that fact. But this has been a reoccurring issue over the years, and at some point, I think it will just be helpful if we could get to some kind of resolution on how we want to define these terms in keeping with the accounting principles, et cetera. But I think it would just, it's a subject that never goes away. I know I've been through this a couple of times already. And I just believe that for us as committee members, it's an issue we need to address. Obviously, the member governments are going to do what they're going to do. But I think for clarification for this board, it's important.
Mike, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, so I think we all agree kind of what's maintenance, what's capital. And just recently, we did come and ask for Sierra Madre that we have a large project that, is expensive, and we've got all these different funding pools, and including we want to use RTA maintenance that we would have spent and thrown away. We asked, the board, you and the board, to let us use it for the capital project, to use it more wisely, even though it didn't quite fit the traditional definitions. So I think we whatever the board and the committee decide to do, that's fine. But I think what I, again, want to reiterate is that we get stretched and we have to start thinking kind of innovatively for funding. And if we have a project that's shorter funds and we have maintenance funds, we're going to come and ask you, hey, could we use this for this project? But I think, again, I want to reiterate, we're going to come and do that well in advance so that you guys can think about it and vote one way and then let the board decide, instead of kind of just coming assuming we're going to do that. So I think that was one of the things, is that even if you guys come with a hard and fast policy of what's maintenance and what's capital, we may still come and say, hey, this bridge is mostly capital, but we're still short. We want to use some of the bridge maintenance funds to supplement so we can fix the darn thing. But again, I see the need to come and talk beforehand and get some buy-in before we just assume that we can use and cross those definitions, because we have, I'll admit.
Sure.
So anyway, I just wanted to, just kind of, again, reiterate and assure you that we're going to come and talk to you about when we have these gray areas, because there are always going to be gray areas.
Okay.
I want to amend my motion, and I would like to table this discussion till the month of June in respect for the people coming in or a little late. Sorry.
Carlos, you're real quick.
Oh, yeah, the comments here, just to follow up. I do like, when I came on board, I'm still kind of new, I do like the fact that we have an oversight, that's part of our charter is oversight, so having some written guidelines to bring new members of the committee on board, I think would be very, very useful. Because again, you want to take your oversight responsibility seriously, and by having some information to help guide you with that, doesn't hold your feet to the fire, but it helps you make those kinds of decisions. The second comment was also, and this came up with the board of directors has brought this up, but our maintenance of effort for maintenance activities. There's two different maintenance areas. Would this be kind of within the scope of this subcommittee, or would that be a separate thing altogether? Because that's also come up. What is this maintenance of effort?
Completely separate. Completely.
Separate issue?
Yep.
Yeah, that's something that also needs to be addressed at some point as well.
Yeah.
And the board is going to take that up in June.
Oh, have they said that? They're going to bring it up in June?
The chair, it was brought up a couple months ago. The board chair wanted to postpone it until Merv's replacement was seated, which is June. So issues surrounding the maintenance of effort, which includes transit, city's transit, and maintenance for all 5 member governments. Yolanda Avila brought up a couple of items, starting with, should the original dollar amount from 2004, that was the base year that all 5 member governments used, should that be inflation adjusted?
Yes.
So that was one of her 2 or 3 comments. So that was postponed from February or March, and they will pick that up in June. They have not referred it to the CAC yet. I think they'll have their initial discussion in June, and I'm expecting that they would refer it to the CAC.
Okay, on this maintenance and thing, I'm going to, as the chair, we're going to postpone this till next month out of courtesy, the AAA and stuff. I'll give some thought to the subcommittee. I want to throw a couple of things out very quickly. If we're going to have a subcommittee, which I'm okay with, should we include member government reps as part of that subcommittee? Should our auditor be part of that also, in terms of, or some other accounting type thing? These are just some things to think about. No?
Bev's the CPA. The auditor would charge us an hourly rate of probably $200 an hour.
So it's going to involve Bev's time too. Okay, so just there's some things to think about. I have no problem. I certainly wasn't implying that these guys weren't doing their job. But I'm going to postpone that line item. It's an approval on our agenda. I'm going to postpone that until next month.
Rev made the motion to postpone.
You did?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the legislative report. You have the three bills in your packet. The first one, Senate Bill 51, that was postponed indefinitely, so that one's dead. The second one, Senate Bill 138, was approved by the House and the Senate and signed by the Governor Polis. The third one passed the House on April 16. It passed the Senate April 29. So I assume that's going to the Governor as we speak. So that's the status of those three.
There was an article in the paper that talked about potentially canceling Senate Bill 1. The actions that, it wasn't Senate Bill 1, the one providing some money for transportation and for the GAP project?
That's not one that's been on
Okay.
our radar that we, I didn't put anything on our radar that we couldn't do anything about because the legislative session is over on Friday of this week.
Okay, all right,
So-
sorry.
Real quickly, too, I believe I noted that there's going to be a ballot measure going to the voters because they have to request to retain any excess Tabor
Yes.
funds.
Yes.
So
That could be this 1258.
okay. I was thinking, yeah.
But there might be another one as well.
I think it was actually a separate one.
Okay.
Requiring the vote to be on the ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
November.
So.
Okay. And then 8E, the GAP project, virtually no change, just a couple of comments that they're generally on schedule. So, and then with number 9, you're going to have maintenance and capital next time, so.
Anything else that anybody want to bring up or have discussed for next meeting?
Just a communication.
And the communications, Brian, you going?
I just wanted to bring up real quick and ask for your guys' assistance in getting the word out. We're doing a pretty good job, but for the last 12 years, I've organized the ride on the flyer that you guys have. It benefits our local, in this case, homeless vets. One of the other things I do is I sit on the El Paso County Homeless Vets Coalition, and unfortunately, the need is pretty stable in our community. It does increase. We've instituted a couple of programs. We've got a homeless prevention program that just since it was instituted last May has prevented about 30 homeless or 30 veteran families from becoming homeless. So we're trying to get to the problem before it actually becomes a problem. And then we also have our transitional housing initiative that identifies and vets and assists situationally homeless veteran families and their children who are in situations because of job loss or catastrophic medical bills or things of that nature to go from being in the homeless realm into a stable housing. I'm very proud to say that we've got well over a 95% success rate with that program. Within 45 days of our stand down that we have every October, we get these families into stable housing and jobs, and we've got a really good success rate doing that. So if you know somebody, this ride benefits. But if you know of anybody who may be interested in donating or assisting the El Paso County homeless vets, the information's on the card or on the website, so it's just veteransride.org. You can have them contact me. And thanks.
Any other communications by any members? Carlos?
Yes, I was a little late because I was at the Cottonwood Creek Trail opening. I just wanted to, I spoke with our chairman, Geislinger. He's also our city council rep, District 2. He's my representative. Spoke with him briefly. He gave a few words, as well as the mayor, Travis Easton, Karen Paulus from Parks was there at the for the ribbon cutting ceremony. But Chairman Geislinger just wanted to pass on that this was a very well attended event. He's very happy that this is opened up because this is going to open up a corridor for bicyclists, pedestrians, runners, everybody there in the northeast section of Colorado Springs. So he just wanted us to pass that on from our chairman to the rest of the committee, and he just was very proud, of what has been accomplished by the PPRTA. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for those words, and I've mentioned it to Rick. For large projects like that, that's a great project. Did a lot for two communities, just the safety of pedestrians and traffic in general. But my comment to Rick was it'd be nice if these organizations would try to schedule these ribbon cuttings and dedications to where we could attend these things versus several of us. So, but thanks for going, and thank you all for the day, and meeting adjourned.